Are you vegan now or something like that? You stop eating red meat?
I'm not vegan completely, but I did cut out. I've been meaning to cut out red meat, not for health reasons, but for ethical reasons, because I'm kind of an animal advocate. And I did an article once on grass-fed beef, and when I researched and found out about these so-called factory farms, the way they treat cattle, it just was horrible. I mean, it was just absolutely devastating. And I always swore one of these days I'm going to cut out meat. I just don't like eating animals like that. I already cut out pork because I know it sounds funny. I like pigs. I like them. I'd like to have a pig as a pet. I think they're very smart. Yeah, they're cute. I couldn't, to me, eating a pig was like eating a human. I couldn't do it. So I cut out stuff like bacon already a couple of years. So after I got out of the hospital, when I was in the hospital, I had nothing to do but lie in bed. I had my phone with me, so I was able to read up on diverticulitis. I read about 50 medical journal articles. By the time I got out of the hospital, I knew about as much about it as any doctor. And that's when I realized, I noticed that red meat was considered, eating red meat was considered a minor risk factor. So I said, all right, here's my opportunity. I'm going to cut out red meat. And I did. I haven't eaten red meat since then. I eat a little bit of chicken. I eat eggs. And that's about it. And then I have protein, whey protein, but the rest of it's vegetables and fruit. That's it. So I'm kind of not 100%, but I'm leaning towards it.
You brought up the whole grass-fed beef, right? Like I was talking to somebody recently about that. When you go to the supermarket now, you see organic products, you see cage-free chickens, you see a grass-fed beef. You see all these things like, and it makes it look more humane, right? For that, like it makes you as a consumer much you feel better by getting that type of stuff for health reasons, for humane reasons, right? Now you saying that it's just basically just are those real things? Are they really more humane treatments for animals in those conditions? And are they better for you, those products?
Well, certain one. Well, the cage-free stuff is controversial because a lot of that's fake. In other words, what they'll do is normally chickens are penned so tight that they can't move. It's like a horrible torture. With the cage-free, they'll let a lot of oftentimes they'll let the chickens out of the cage for 10 minutes. And by doing that, they could call it cage-free. It's completely fake. In other words, you're paying premium prices, but you're not really getting cage-free. The only way to really be sure that you're getting cage-free eggs, is to actually get it from a farmer. I know it sounds funny. A lot of people aren't going to do that. But other than that, I would say a good percentage of so-called cage-free are not really cage-free. So you're buying regular eggs and they're charging you twice as much, 3 times as much money, whatever. As far as the grass-fed beef, there is something nutritionally to that. They still kill the cow, so it's not that humane. But the point is, they let the cow out in the pasture. It's not penned up, and as a result, the cow gets a more varied diet. And usually, they give them stuff like crappy soy grits and all that. And the quality, the nutritional quality of the meat of a grass-fed cow is higher than regular meat. And for example, it has a lot more of what they call conjugated linoleic acid, CLA. It has some health benefits and this and that. So the grass-fed beef is definitely superior to regular beef, but I wouldn't actually call it humane again because it still involves the killing of cows. Maybe they do it in a little bit better way, but killing is killing. What are you going to say? If you kill someone with a knife or a gun, you're still killing them.
Sure, sure. What about, I read somewhere and I saw this documentary on YouTube, I think a while ago. If you get like, like cheaper chicken, like those big chicken breasts, those come from chickens that are literally just in a cage. They cut their beaks off. Those
Right.
chickens never walk on the ground, literally, right? That's true,
That
right?
that is true. That is true. And also, what they do with the chicks is horrible. The little babies, they throw them in a grinder while they're alive. It's horrendous. That's one of the things I found out when I did the grass-fed beef. They take little baby chicks, they throw in a grinder while they're alive. They just pour them right in. I don't know how people could walk around and do it. I couldn't do that for any amount of money. I could never do that. I understand it's a job to these guys, but certainly like those guys who up in the Canada and where they shoot the baby seals. I heard that they're cutting down that over the years. They're reducing that, but that's something I couldn't do. Somebody said to me once, "Well, Jerry, these guys are fishermen, and they got to support their families." I said, "Well, to me, I'd have to get a different job. I'm not going to kill baby seals. I don't care if I have 5 kids, whatever. I could not live with myself. You know what I mean? So these guys have a different type of mentality than me. That's all I can say.
Sure. But how can you be a bodybuilder, right? If you're in the bodybuilding industry, right, obviously, how can you be a bodybuilder and still be humane and still, you got to eat chicken and beef, right? I mean, you
It's
know,
difficult. The funny thing is, I would normally have agreed with you readily a couple of years ago, but the truth is, if you look at it from a purely nutritional sense, you could actually be a vegan and be a vegan. I always mispronounce. I think it's vegan. You can always be a vegan and be a successful bodybuilder. It just takes a little more research and study to ensure that you're getting all the nutrients. And again, a couple of years ago, it would have been much more difficult. But now they have these kind of vegetable-based protein powders like hemp and pea and rice. And the thing is, in the studies that I've written about this, the only difference between them and whey is they don't have quite as much amino acids as whey. But now let's say you take 2 scoops of, let's say, pea protein or wet ripe rice protein. Well, it turns out that has the same amount of amino acids as the whey. So all you got to do is double it up. And that makes it a lot easier because what you're saying is true. Bodybuilders do need a lot more protein, and if you try to get it strictly from fruits and vegetables, that's a lot of. I mean, that is really hard to do. In fact, I would say it's almost nearly very, very difficult to do. But with the advent of these, again, vegetable-based proteins supplements, it's not hard at all. So, and then the other thing you'd have to look for is to ensure that you get the nutrients that are not in the vegan diet, like B12, iron. You'd probably have to get iodine. There's a couple of other ones.
but it's also, isn't it a question of texture? Because I remember talking to this bodybuilder a long time ago, right? He told me he went dieting just on fish. And he said he couldn't get the hardness of the muscle the same way he got from beef and chicken. Is it about texture something to do with it too, though, of the actual protein? The texture, like, the meat.
I would say in the case of the fish, it's probably the fact that it's so low in fat. Now you look at fish; it has no carbohydrate, and if you eat a really lean fish, you're getting very little fat. I mean, it's like 1 gram. It's like nothing. So you basically the guy's eating pure protein. So by doing that, I mean he could get sliced because he's forcing his body to use up all the fat that's on his body. So I mean sometimes it could get to extreme. I mean I don't know if you saw this recent video that Ronnie Coleman did where he said he's 0.33 when he was in contest condition at 290 pounds. I had to laugh. I like Ronnie Coleman. I know him, and I think he's a great guy. Probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Mr. Olympia. But he makes a statement that he was 0.33% body fat.
You don't believe him?
Physically impossible. It's
Physically?
not. No, because here's the deal. A man has what they call 3% essential fat on his body. What that means is that 3% fat the body doesn't want to touch. That's what supports your internal organs.
So 3 is the minimum. 3% is the minimum.
3 is the minimum. The fat that surrounds your nerves and mind, all this is related to that essential fat. You start to burn away that essential fat. As soon as you go below 3%, things happen. For one thing, and they showed this with some Navy SEALs years ago. They actually went down below 3%. As soon as they dropped below 3% fat, they started cannibalizing their muscle. Muscles were burning away. I mean, because what's happening is the body senses that the body fat's too low. It starts to burn tissues like crazy. If you try to go even below that, let's say you head for 1%, then you're going to turn off your immune system, and it's almost like you have COVID-19. You're going to die. As soon as you run into somebody who has some sort of disease, they're not going to be able to treat you. You have no immunity. So, to say you're 0.3, a skeleton has more fat than that because the fat's in the bone marrow. So and then when he said he was 3% fat when he was off season. Now, if you ever, I'm sure you've seen photos of him off season, 320 pounds. He looked like a walking, what is it called, Michelin man. I mean, he was gigantic, but he had the big pot belly and stuff. That's not 3% fat. You've heard of Andreas Munzer, the bodybuilder. He was probably the most ripped bodybuilder ever. I interviewed the guy several times. Very nice guy. I asked him in an interview, have you ever had, and this guy was sliced. I remember when I was talking to him, his skin looked like it was transparent. You could actually, when he moved his hand, you could see muscle fibers jumping around in his arm. That's how cut he was. Veins everywhere. I said, Andreas, did you ever have your body fat measured? He says, yes. I said, what was it? 5%. And look, that man had no fat at all. And and Ronnie Coleman is saying he's 3%. Sorry. I like Ronnie. I want to, well, no, just to be fair, Vlad, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say that whoever measured his fat. Sometimes these body fat tests, they depend on water content. And bodybuilders have unusual water content. Like where, for example, before a show, as you know, they're very dehydrated. A lot of the guys take diuretic. So that makes these typical body composition, it throws them off. So they get these weird figures. So I'm giving Ronnie the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say that whoever told them that these figures of zero, they didn't measure them correctly, because it's not possible. It's just not possible.